Welcome back to the French Rugby Podcast with me, Tim Groves, ex-Scotland international and adopted Frenchman, Johnny BT. And we're overloaded with Scotsmen this week. No Benji, so former Scotland captain Greig Laidlaw joins us to preview Scotland-France. How you doing, Greg?
Hi, guys. I'm very well, thank you.
Former Clermont scrum half as well, but now in Japan. We had you on about a year ago, so still in Japan, still enjoying it?
Yeah, still out here, Tim. Still very much enjoying it. It's a little bit disrupted the season at the moment due to COVID, sadly, but hopefully we're going to get over that. The cases seem to be coming down across the country now, so yeah, very much enjoying it, enjoying the rugby. It's definitely a shorter season, enjoying that side of it as well. So yeah, still awesome to be out on the field training and playing as well.
Half the number of games, twice the end, Johnny.
Twice the end. Say no more. 100%. He'll be going till he's 45 at this rate. 100%.
And how are you, Johnny? You went skiing last week, didn't you?
I did.
Break any legs?
No. I didn't do any skiing. I basically did après-ski and pre-ski and coffeeing and beersing. But we basically took the kids up. It's 2 weeks off school holidays here. So we took the kids down to Baqueira in Spain in the Pyrenees. Really nice just to get a break, change of scene, and it's beautiful down there. Like, it's absolutely stunning. But no, we basically just took them to ski school, and our youngest is 1. So Jen and I took turns of looking after him as he caused absolute chaos on the side of the slopes. But no, it was good. But for us, it was more just having a beer and a glass of wine and enjoying the food. And as I said, a change of scene, but it was very, very cool. Nice part of the world. And now I'm thankful to be here with you guys and not with my kids, because after 1.5 weeks, as Greig knows, it gets a bit much. So we got another 3 days to go for me, and then I'll be back to Edinburgh for Scotland, France, hospitality and commentary, all that stuff. So looking forward to the end of the holidays, a few more days with them, and then fleeing and getting to Edinburgh and enjoying some rugby.
And before we move on to the Six Nations, how is the rugby over there? You mentioned the season's quite disrupted because of COVID, but the standard?
Standard's very good, Tim. I think, there's quite a lot of highlights and stuff flying about on World Rugby feeds and stuff like that. And, some of the tries being scored are pretty ridiculous. So it's great fun to play, and they really do play that sort of real positive frame of mind. Every team kind of plays the same. There's a few teams obviously with a little bit more power, but very much like free flowing, try and be real positive with the ball and kind of attack from anywhere. So it's really exciting, and it's been an awesome challenge for me. Especially I'm not young anymore, so I've been having to bash out the extra fitness and what have you on the field to keep up with these young kids, but trying to hand my knowledge onto them, and it's very much part of my job out here, which I'm really enjoying.
And obviously you're taking it very seriously, and the standard is good. But I've read recently you were talking about the pressure of being Scotland captain. Is it a bit more relaxed for you over there? You enjoying life a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. That's when you sort of look back, and certainly when I was Scotland captain, all you want to do is win, and I think it gets difficult at certain times. Obviously, you can't win every game, and certainly don't playing for Scotland a lot of the times. And Johnny will tell you that it's difficult, but so yeah, really loving just having a little bit of step back, being able to get away from that sort of pressured environment week in, week out. Really, essentially get back to doing what you do when you're young and really enjoying the game of rugby. And I've really sort of been rejuvenated since I came out here. I go along to training, get a smile on my face, and get out there and play rugby. So really enjoying that side of it.
Well, let's move on to the Six Nations then. Scotland, France this weekend. Johnny, we spoke about it last week, and you were talking about the formula to beat this France side. So how do you think they'll approach it, Scotland, Greg?
I think and I heard Beach talking about it in the podcast last week. Very much the same sort of mindset. Scotland got to have to play quick. I think he talked about staying away from the blitz. Beach, easier said than done, I guess. Yeah, but that's essentially the template. But I don't think Scotland are clearly going to respect France because they're playing awesome at the moment. You don't beat teams like New Zealand and Ireland, who are also playing excellent at this moment in time. You don't beat teams like that unless you're really good. But Scotland have played and probably won against France the last 2 or 3 times they've played them, and for a reason. So Scotland can win. They're going to have a real 80-minute performance or top draw performance to win the game. They need to play skillful, they need to be disciplined, and they need to move the ball as much as they can away from the big, heavy French pack. Don't let them settle. Don't let them get in the rhythm. If they can do that, they're in with a chance.
Last time at Murrayfield, we saw Adam Hastings actually come up with an amazing kicking display, crossfield kicks. like firing behind wingers, finding space, turning them constantly. And then again, last year in Paris, it was completely different. It was absolutely hosing it down. It was about scrum achieving parity. There's a big line-out performance by Grant Gilchrist, applying pressure a different way at Mull. But like France have such a big, imposing pack. It looks like it's going to be clear and not too messy weather-wise this weekend. But so do you think France, in sort of physicality and pure power, have a bit of an upper hand?
When it comes to pure power speeds, yes, they will. Certainly over the 8 minutes, Scotland have got a good pack of forwards for sure. They're well coached, but they're going to have to properly perform for 80 minutes. And the thing with France is as well, it's probably their bench also as well. Taufi Fanua, Bamba, Mauvaka, guys like that coming on. With 20, 30 minutes to go, they make such a difference. Obviously, Scotland do have a strong bench as well, but just that grind, you know what it's like. In every scrum, they've got, Valemsa in there, Uli Antonio on the tight head, the big men, and just if they keep coming at you for 80 minutes, it makes it really difficult. So hopefully the weather can hold, because I think, if it was, heavy rain or whatever, that's probably going to suit France a little bit more. And I know that might sound funny because France can obviously play as well, but Scotland would probably get out muscled, over the 80 minutes if it was heavy rain. And so hopefully it'll get lucky up in Edinburgh going into the game if it can do that, and then that allows Scotland to play that sort of speed of ball as well. They've got to create a quick ball from rucks, get the ball away from there, get it into Finn's hands, and he can really hurt France with his passing. But you mentioned Adam Hastings' kicking game. Finn can really hurt France with his kicking game as well, and get the ball in behind them.
Is that the balance, Johnny? Because you were talking about last week keeping the ball away from France and doing a lot of kicking. So what are we going to expect from Scotland?
I would almost refuse the physical battle. I know it sounds really weird, but if you try and take them on in the middle of the park, go into multi-phase, you're going to come unstuck because they're so big, they're so powerful, they're so good on the deck as well. You look at the counter-wrecking, the amount of people that can contest the ball in their pack and across their backline as well. So I think a lot, when it gets to multi-phase, there will be a lot of kicking to the sky, a lot of contesting, a lot of testing their wingers in the air. I think, again, a lot of crossfield kicks, getting in behind them, leaving wingers trailing on sidelines, trying to beat them into those tram lines and win quick, easy ball in those areas. But I don't see Scotland, playing out their third, playing out of their 40 at all, playing really smart, really pragmatic rugby. Because if you're going to beat France, you have to get into the right areas of the field and execute. And to be fair, they did that against England by the skin of their teeth. And I mean, by that and no more. And that you can't have that little possession and territory and expect to win games. So again, that showed when they went down to Cardiff, they weren't accurate. But France is a different ballgame in terms of the athletes, in terms of the organisation that you're playing against. This French national team is a serious team. Scotland will take confidence from the fact they've beaten them the last 2 times, but I think this will be a huge test for them. And Murrayfield, you look at all the games have been won essentially by the big teams at home so far. Like that might be the other thing that carries Scotland through. But if you look at in the tactical battles, Gregor's won the last 2 against Fabian. But you think as coaches are constantly evolving and getting better, and I think Fabian showed with his side and the steps they've taken with Sean as well defensively, they're really kicking on. So it's going to be hell of a hard for Scotland this weekend. But for me, if they're going to win the game or beat France at all, it'll be tactical kicking. It'll be constantly Finn looking over their first defensive line, chip kicking, turning them, trying to slow their defensive line, keep them second guessing. With loads of little technical and tactical elements to their kicking game to slow France down, but it'll be extremely hard.
Scotland could probably look at, certainly facets of the Ireland's performance and the way they played, and certainly in around that, start of the second half, the way Ireland were able to sort of, hit that pot of 3 forwards off the sideline and, tug it to the 10, and they were able to get some bodies into space. And they sort of done that not just on one occasion. So I think that's the sort of template that as we talked about, getting the ball away from the heavy forwards, making them move, because that's probably one area France have really improved on. As they've got, whether Cyril Bay or Julien Marchand, a couple of guys in there who can get around the park a bit better now than probably what they've had at their disposal in the past. So Scotland, again, they've got to be skillful, and they've got to have to be able to produce that over 80 minutes. And I truly believe if they can do that, they can get going. And I think if you can get a couple of big ball carriers in wider channels as well, think, probably Hamish has probably been a little bit frustrated. We've not seen him carry as much as he's probably a bit more marked nowadays, like everything else. But I still think if you can get him in the wider channels, he can cause some damage. I think Duhan van der Merwe, he's probably a little bit frustrated as well. He's not had as much ball as Darcy Graham, so he's probably due a big performance. So hopefully we can get his hands on the ball in some sort of less cluttered areas. If we can do that, that's where Hamish, Duhan, these guys, they become really dangerous. And I thought Hoggy looked pretty dangerous also against Wales. He was able to beat that first defender. We just weren't able to get anybody close to him to pick up an offload. So he's always dangerous. So if he can keep doing that, if we can get bodies in and around him close, get a quick offload away, that's going to keep speeding the play and really help us out.
Johnny mentioned the line out last year, and Grant Gilchrist, you mentioned, Johnny. He's there, Sam Skinner's there, but no Johnny Gray, no Scott Cummings. How much are they going to be missed?
Not massively is the honest answer. And that they haven't, obviously they make the tackles, but big dominant ball carries and dominance hasn't really been there, I wouldn't say. They've soaked really well. But I think if Sam Skinner comes, Sam's been exceptional for Exeter. I was down working at one of his games, Exeter against Montpellier. He's a proper rugby player. And so I guess in the past you'd have had these guys slip out, or Richie Gray might have come in, but he's made himself unavailable. But Sam Skinner's a really, really capable and decent second rower in his own right. So those aren't too big of a loss for me. Also, Gilco would be the bigger loss. He's the line-out caller and leader. And Sam Skinner comes in and fills a spot, which is be aggressive, be abrasive, get around and try and get amongst this French pack. But I don't think that's a massive loss for Scotland.
So is it the depth, Greg? Because with those two missing, you mentioned France will have Roman Taufifenua coming off the bench. Perhaps there's not quite the same depth for Scotland.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think obviously when you start picking up a couple of injuries as well, Tim, and over this sort of Six Nations period, and France have probably yet to experience that yet, but you can see it already now kicking in a little bit for Scotland. We obviously lost Jamie Ritchie in game one, who, already we've had to move a couple of players around to probably try and cover him up, use Sam Skinner in a different way and, get him into the second row. And as Pete said, he's an excellent player, and he's probably he would start anyway on another day, so you're not going to lose too much. But once you start, I think Scotland have brought in is it Marshall Sykes certainly into the squad, and that's going to be his first involvement. And Beats will tell you, Taufifenua, somebody like that, he's 130 odd kilos and a lot of caps, a lot of experience,
and the rest,
just that power game. Yeah, and the rest as well. So
there's a program weight and there's a real weight, Greig. We know that both from France.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Scotland are fairly settled still, which will help the young guys coming in. They're obviously good players. They're getting pulled into the squad, but you look at that French team as well, they are really settled. And I think that goes such a long way in that international rugby. If you've got that settled environment, people know what everybody's all about, and it's just that sort of easy transition. When somebody does come on, whenever they get substituted onto the field, it's a seamless transition, and you can see France have got that at the moment. Nothing really changes, when they do make changes.
And speaking of people that are settled, there's obviously in fallow weeks people get a rest. Our old mate Finn Russell was back with Racing. Really, really impressive win for them away to Bordeaux. He's getting abused for his shirt off in the selfie in the change room afterwards. What do you make about the battle? So you've got Finn, again, you love playing with him, good man as well, going up against Intermac, one of the best in the world. Again, what do you make of both? You've played against both of them. What do you make of both, and what do you make of the head-to-head that's going to happen this weekend at Murrayfield?
Oh, really exciting again, isn't it? Similar, I guess, to Scotland v England. And, Marcus Smith was coming in up against Finn, and that was an interesting battle and a really good, game within the game, essentially. So it's going to be another one of them this weekend. That's what's difficult about players that play outside of Scotland. I briefly spoke to Finn on text the other night there. He obviously was back in the old 9 o'clock on a Sunday night against Bordeaux. He's safe and well. He's back in Scotland, so thankfully he's not picked up any injuries, and he was looking lovely again with his stop off in the change room after it. So you can look like whatever you want to look like when you're as good as Finn. So and then obviously Roman Antoine, excellent player. Obviously he's building that really strong partnership with Dupont on the side, and his club mate So looks really comfortable. Again, in that French team, we mentioned just slightly earlier how they look really settled. And you can see that in the way he plays as well. He's real sort of confident and comfortable with who's round about him. And I guess he's a similar player in many ways to Finn, and maybe he doesn't chuck as many, offloads and stuff, but he can be flashy. He can do outstanding things. He can do simple things really well. He's running the ball out from his own dead ball area against the All Blacks. He can knock over crossfield kicks. A real dangerous player, and you saw that from that first couple of minutes into the game against Ireland, making that half break and chucking a lovely offload on the inside. So I think it's a big test for him coming to Murrayfield. To be honest, I think Scotland will probably target him, or not target, but put pressure on both of the halfbacks. If you can get some momentum in the game there, try and squeeze them and frustrate them, that could be one avenue into the game. And seeing Finn going up against him, and also the other French backs, Gael Ficou that you'll know so well from playing at the same club in France. It's going to be an interesting battle.
Just touching on Finn and your relationship with him, it might be difficult for you to say, but I think it's fair that you're pretty different characters. So did you bring the best out of him and vice versa as well when you played together?
Oh, you love to ask Finn about if I brought the best out of him. He'll probably say not, but he certainly brought the best out of me. There's no denying that, and we are completely different characters. But again, I think that's why we got on so well, because I was a sort of certainly a little bit more serious when it came to the rugby stuff, which is just the way I was. But yeah, when he came into the Scotland setup, I think he almost kind of reminded me a little bit, what it's all about, and try not to take it so seriously, and then try and enjoy it as best you can. And I certainly really enjoyed, getting to know and getting to play with him. And I think he always just appreciated my honesty, and always tried to keep him in the tracks as much as he could, but in the same breath, let him go and do his stuff as well. And that was just, I think that was probably where we got to, is some of the times he'd call for the ball, I just wouldn't give him it because I knew it wasn't on. But other times I'd say, yeah, here you go, and go and do your thing. And so now we had great fun together, and it's awesome to see him in that sort of role now as a leader of the Scotland team, because he really is. You can see he's driving the attack, and you can see that the players look down for that leadership and direction on the field, and he's really stepping up. So it's awesome to see. And he's been kicking really well at post as well. What people might not know, he's not really frontline kicker for Racing as well. So it's not an easy thing to do. So he's kicked extremely well so far. So there's no reason why he can't keep that going. And I'm looking forward to him playing again this weekend.
And Finn better than most, as you mentioned, but now as a Scotsman based in France, after the disappointment of Cardiff, how motivated do you think he will be at 10 as a leader for this side to try and get one over the French and some of his teammates this weekend at Murrayfield?
Yeah, he'll be hugely motivated now. It's probably, even after that disappointment down in Cardiff, I think sometimes it's a good thing you get to go back to Racing and play another game and get it flushed out your system. And like you, Beats, you'll know what it's like, going back into Scotland camp to then go back over to France. You want to do well and you want to win. I remember playing for Clermont. I think it was 2017 or 2018. We managed to beat them at Murrayfield when I was playing at Clermont. It was just such an awesome feeling. When you're going to head back over to France, you can sort of walk in, push your chest out and all that sort of banter and have a laugh with the boys. And the way Finn is, he'll be putting himself out there to try and get the win this weekend. And it'd be awesome to be a fly in the wall in the change room back in Racing. The banter he'll be giving the boys if he's able to do it.
And it seems odd to ask, but 2 yellows and a red in his last 7 Six Nations games. I mean, is there an issue there? All eyes will be on him this weekend, obviously, after what happened in Cardiff.
Oh, there's certainly no issue. That's for sure. He, as I said, I think he's really grown in that sort of leadership role within the team, and he's really good at picking intercepts. When to be fair, everybody's seen it, and the damage is probably already done in the one in Cardiff at the weekend. I think Dan Biggar took that penalty at the post, and the old classic, it hit the post and nobody reacted, and the Wales picked the ball back up, and that's why they got the field position. So we were under the pump. He's tried to come out the line and grab it and rein the ball in. Unfortunately, it's not worked and this time around. But There's certainly no issue there. And that's a great thing about Finn's character. He will be annoyed. He's picked up the yellow card, but he won't let it bother him. He'll just get on with it, get on with his job. And I know how much he'll be looking forward to pulling the Scotland jersey back on and getting out there at Murrayfield this weekend.
And you mentioned earlier the pressure that Scotland would have to put on Intermac and Antoine Dupont. As a former scrum half, not a bad one at that, give us what do you make of Antoine? I know he's the World Player of the Year, but what do you make of his game in general? What bits do you most enjoy? And if you're Greig and you're the coaching staff, how do you try and pressurise Antoine Dupont?
What do I enjoy? I enjoy, when he runs and takes on the big boys. And I think that's why a lot of the big boys miss sort of tackles on him or fall off tackles. They don't realise how strong he actually is. It might be funny to sort of hear it, but all of his strengths, like in his legs mainly, he's got that sort of low centre of gravity. Whereas a lot of boys will have real strong fens and stuff, but he's got like real strong legs, low centre of gravity, and he can sort of pump his legs through contact as well as a fairly good handoff. And I think a lot of boys end up going high on him, and he can fend them, but he keeps his legs going through contact. So that's probably one of the bits I really enjoy. He's brave as well. For a small guy, it's always nice to see it. He really does get stuck in, and I think he's definitely leading that French team really well and leading it from the front. Also, I think how you put pressure on him is, your first two defenders from the ruck, whatever you call them, or A or B or guard, whatever everybody's got different names for them these days, but they've got to really be switched on every single breakdown and come forward as well. I think a lot of forwards get scared, from nines like that who've got speed, who've got strength, but they don't come forward and don't take his space away. And that's the worst thing you can do. If you sit off him, if you're indecisive, he will be decisive, and that's when he's going to take space. And if he doesn't take space himself or go through, he'll put other people into space with an offload. So the first two defenders either side of the ruck got to come up, take 2 steps forward, put pressure on, force him to play the ball early, and then if you can do that, you can negate some of his dangerous play.
I remember Fabien Galtier as well. Whenever we played against a decent nines, we played against Morgan Parra, Clermont, like whoever it was in top 14 were at Montpellier, he'd be like 2 steps forward and then just take the 9. He was like, in any case, you're slowing the game down. Don't let him get to the next ruck. Limit his involvement by just getting him on the deck as much as you can get him on the floor and out of the game. It doesn't matter if it's a prop or a second row, but whoever it is in those first 2 positions, come forward, take space. And if you can get man and ball, get him on the deck and just get him out of the game. And I think that's for all teams. Like the less he is in the game, the more chance you've got of winning it. Because the more touches he has on the ball, he's that good, the more damage. And you see as well, support lines, even after the ball's gone away, the amount of tries he scores from his tracking, just from running simple but smart follow-up lines. Again, that's it. It's just check him, get him out of the way. But for all teams, he's just so hard to stop, because even if you try and bump him as the ball's going, he'd sit you down. Like he's that strong, as you mentioned. So I don't know. He's been a joy to watch. So good luck to the Scottish defence this weekend. That's all I can say.
Yeah, he is awesome to watch, to be fair to him. But and that's when it comes back to the Scotland side a little bit. And 2 things: if they can hold their discipline, don't give France set piece and line out to launch off. That can frustrate them as well. And really holding the ball in attack. If they can hold the ball in attack, the less time France are obviously going to have to attack, and the less dangerous he becomes. Make him defend, make him tackle, and don't let him get his hands on the ball. Easier said than done.
And aside from wearing yellow dressing gowns and GQ, which I'm guessing Greig probably never would have done, Johnny, were they fairly similar characters, Greig and Antoine?
Yeah, in certain ways. Although if you paid Greig enough, he would definitely stick a pink one on, let's be honest, Greig. No, they're both like really focused on their rugby and being the best that they could be, but with like a sort of nice sense of humor with it. Not daft, but good fun to be around, good company, enjoyable, but really serious about the rugby and serious about being the best they could be. So Antoine's probably got a bit more physically on you, I would say. He's probably a bit more explosive, but
Can't argue with that one, mate.
You can't argue there. But like 2 great scrum halves and also good mates, like both good boys. So it's been really nice to, again, I've passed everything on, everything that I knew on and encouraged them. And now they are where they are. I'm just so proud of them both. There you go. No, but they are. As personalities go, actually quite similar, yeah.
Johnny had a lovely left foot spiral at him as well. He's been quite modest there, mate.
Let's focus on France a bit more then. Gabon Villiers, Johnny. No Gabon Villiers this weekend. Who comes in for him?
He's probably been the player of the tournament so far for me as well, in what he's brought with his defense. He's been outstanding. I think in his absence, he's probably back for the next round. I think you probably, again, it's a risk, and it's this is why it becomes a little bit of a banana skin, without being disrespectful to Scotland, but shifting around that backline at this stage when you go to Murrayfield becomes quite dangerous. But if you look at the personnel they've got, you'd probably bring Dante straight back into 12. You'd keep Moefana, who's been great at 13, and Fickou might almost be shifted to the wing because he's played there a lot for France. And that, I think, is where they'd be most comfortable with the changes as a team and as a unit and what they've had before. Is that the best setup for going to Scotland to try and win at Murrayfield? I'm not quite sure, but I think with the personnel they have, that's what they'll do. But that's it. I think they have to back themselves in their systems, because I don't like Vakatawa's not going to come back in. He's still coming back to fitness and form with Racing, and that's what they've got. So for me, Dante comes back into 12. Again, he was superb against the All Blacks in the autumn. He's a top player. He's been tremendous in top 14. And you keep Moefana at 13, and you probably push Fickou, who's defensive leader, which is maybe a difficult thing to do from the wing, although Villiers has shown that it can be done. You'd stick him back on the wing. So I think you go Dante, Moefana, and Fickou. I don't know what you do, Greg, if you do something differently. That seems like the most simple way to plug it back in.
Yeah, they've obviously, as you mentioned, they've obviously used Gaël Fickou quite a lot on the wing for the French team in the past. So that's probably in their thinking, and it seems to be the easiest shift around for them. So I would imagine that they probably will go with that. It's actually really disappointing that Villiers is injured, to be fair, because I was really looking forward to see him go up against Darcy Graham, who I think, Beach, you mentioned Villiers probably the player of the tournament. I don't think Darcy can be probably too far behind. Certainly after a couple of games, he's been awesome to watch for Scotland, and two probably similar in stature, I guess. Not big men, but real sort of powerful, explosive. So it's a shame he's not going to play, but yeah, I think they'll go Fickou in the wing. Obviously, a bit more, physical or sort of physically intimidating enemy, but Darcy could have some joy there as well, because he's a bigger man, Fickou. But Darcy, that's where he's been causing a lot of problems with his footwork and in around the big defenders.
You both mentioned they've done it before, and Ficou's shifted to the wing in recent years, even though he is their defensive leader. But if you are Scotland and you're Gregor Townsend or you're Chris Harris, are you not looking at that thinking, yeah, quite like that? Would you not rather Gaël Fickou moves to the wing than them play the way they have in recent weeks?
Potentially, but it's a dangerous way to look at it. I think it's more the system. So I think Scotland as well. Scotland actually played with almost a hard blitz as well, with Chris Harris totally taking away time and space away from Vakatawa in Paris last year. So it's sort of the same system. But I think for Scotland, it's more, how do you attack against that system? I don't think that they will wait for a Thursday team announcement and plan around that. I think they'll more of a game plan that suits them down to the ground, how they think they can execute against this French team, not against whether it's Jonathan Dante or Moefana in the midfield. And that's it. Yeah, I don't think Gregor or the coaching staff are going to approach it any differently. But I think come Thursday, if you are the Scottish midfield and Fickou's not there, there's a sort of, not vulnerability, but it's more approachable. I think you think Gaël Fickou, and you think he's the only guy in this French team with over 50 tests. He's been there. He's defensive leader. He's solid. He takes gain line. And you think maybe if you're going up against Dante Moefana, there's maybe a few more chinks in the armor to be exposed. But we'll see what happens on Saturday. But I think generally for Scotland, they will look more as a team, how they want to play, how they want to settle, how they want to execute against this French side, because no matter who they stick in, really, this French side at the minute are absolutely flying.
And before we move on, you obviously know Ali Price very well, Greg. If you're him and you're trying to strike the balance that Johnny's talking about between sending God knows how many kicks down France's throat and also creating the kind of tempo that Scotland like to play with, it's a fine balance. How does he approach it?
A lot's to do with the forward pack, Tim, and how they're able to carry. And I think, Gregor's obviously, he likes to move the ball mainly anyway. So I think that will be Scotland's game plan, is to try and move the ball away from the France's sort of big, heavy pack. So it's just that balance in that half pack area between Ali and Finn. And they've got a lot of experience between them, and now is it's when to kick, why are you kicking, and what type of kick. So I think that's one thing. If Fiku is playing on the wing, that maybe one area we can target him a little bit more is that high sort of ball in and around them, putting it in behind them, making them turn and try and catch balls up above them and really challenge, which is a strength of Darcy's game as well. So yeah, Ali and Finn will run the game, and I'm sure when he kicks, his kicks will be on the money. If you can do that kick to compete. So I don't think, again, Scotland probably want to keep the ball in play for as long as they can. France have really probably improved fitness-wise as well. But again, Scotland really need to take them to the well and really test them this weekend. And that's Scotland are fit. So if it was me, I'd be kicking to compete from my end, keeping the ball in the field and giving France as little set piece as possible.
And what time will it be in Japan when it kicks off at Murrayfield on Saturday? And where will you be watching? In bed?
I'm actually doing a little bit of TV work out here for a Japanese company. Obviously, with a translator. Obviously, with a translator.
Cheating, mate.
Yeah. Otherwise, it could be pretty messy. So, I've done the Welsh game a couple of weeks back there for the TV company out here as well. So I'm going to do that, and it'd be awesome. I get to watch the game live. So.
You enjoying the TV work, or does it make you miss it even more when they're belting out Flower of Scotland at Murrayfield?
Oh, I do miss Murrayfield. Definitely. I think it's funny, you don't sometimes miss much about home, but seeing the Six Nations, stuff like that, seeing Beats going back over to Edinburgh, it'd be awesome to get back over there and catch up with a few boys for a beer, but it's not to be at the moment. Tim, I've got a job to do out here, so get on with it. So yeah, definitely enjoying staying in touch with it, doing a little bit of TV work, and staying involved in the tournament, I guess.
Don't worry, Johnny will have you back in the corporate suites soon.
Exactly, mate. You'll be back in the Thistle suite before you know it, Greig. Who are you kidding? Mr. Greig will be there flying the flag. Mate, obviously, you might have another couple of years in you. You're a spring chicken. Have you thought any more? We touched on Fabien Galtier, the job he's doing, another scrum half, as a fantastic coach. Yourself, are you thinking about coaching, or are you thinking about something completely different?
Yeah, I've done it both. Thinking about a little bit of coaching, thinking about a few options away from the game as well, which is exciting. I've got a few things on the go at the moment, and I'll probably, look to pull the trigger on one or two of them over the next sort of probably 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, and really decide what I'm going to do. So I'm already. We've got Rob Penny here this season. He's head coach here at NTT Communications. He's been really good, so I've taken over the kicking side of things. So I'm really enjoying that. So obviously playing and doing a little bit of kicking coaching as well. So that's, I guess, my first sort of steps into it. So yeah, really enjoying that. And as I said, having a look elsewhere, and a couple of different options away from the game, which I'll decide on soon as.
And side projects, talk us through Wolf's Craig. For everyone that doesn't know about Wolf's Craig, tell us a little bit about that. Wolf Craig, there you go. Tell us about that one, not Wolf's Craig.
Yeah, so Wolf's Craig Distillery, with a new whisky startup, obviously from Scotland. We're going to be based, we're building a brand new distillery this year. It's going to be built hopefully by the end of the year, all things going well, just near Stirling Castle. So I'm currently global brand ambassador for them, which has been awesome. Trying to learn a lot about the whisky industry, so a lot of Zoom meetings and stuff back in Scotland. Richard Patterson, he's the main guy, master blender, master distiller, along with a number of other really well-experienced people within the team. So yeah, that's one avenue I'm looking into, Beats, and I've sort of really enjoyed having something alongside rugby to really get stuck into. And I've been pushing the brand hard out here in Japan. It's obviously they want to try and bring the Wolf Craig out to Japan at some point as well. So I've been really well placed and met a lot of good people so far. So having good fun with that.
Let's have a quick word on the other games in round 3 of the Six Nations as well then. We've obviously had the Six Nations statement in the last week or so claiming Italy's place in the tournament isn't at risk and the makeup of the competition isn't changing. So that's obviously a good thing for them. But it's going to be tough for them, Johnny, isn't it, going to Dublin?
Yeah, I'm not expecting much from them in Dublin. but I'm more just reassured. Like I love the history, and again, bringing them in and the work that's been done to bring through, you know, their infrastructure, their behind the scenes, how they're going. Their under 20s beat England 2 weekends ago. Last year, the under 20s thumped Scotland by 40 points. So it's coming. It's a question of patience. And where it's nearly finally there, it'd be a real shame to turf them out after all the work that's been done. There's some fantastic work, and Treviso as well. Some of their performances in the URC have been top drawers. So look, they're decent now to watch for 50 minutes. They were good against France for 50 minutes. They were good in fits and starts. They managed to get to England's 22, I think it was something like 17 times without scoring a point in Rome, which is unfortunate. But I don't know what Greig's view is, but I've got no interest in seeing South Africa in the Six Nations. I'm not sure if I'm a traditionalist or if I'm boring or it's a European competition. I love it. I've grown up with it. I can't see people from the valleys getting on a flight to go and watch games in Cape Town. You're going to add another fixture, make it a 7 nations when there's already fixture pile-ups in France. There's double weekends coming out everyone's ears already. There's just so many reasons for me why it's a no. And there's so many reasons in it why there should be a bit of loyalty to Italy. They had a fantastic generation with Parise, with Castrogiovanni, Canali, when those players came through, and we hoped that would, you know, kick them on. That was a golden generation of players. And so we're hoping now the next ones are about to burst through, and it's looking like it is. There's shoots of something really positive. So there's a lot of frustration for me. The next European nation is miles away from Italy. We've had all the questions about Georgia. They're way off. And I, for one, have got no interest in seeing South Africa in the tournament. I think if you looked around social media and everybody's views, I think everybody kind of had the same take on it.
The tournament's so strong. And it's partly, you know, because of the fans, you know, and that sort of, you know, it's close proximity as well, which helps. You know, everywhere's not too far away. A couple of hours flights max. You know, down to Italy, down to France, and I think, and that's been built up over the years. And I think, you know, as Beats has sort of touched on there, it doesn't happen overnight. And yeah, everybody's probably a little bit frustrated that, you know, Italy have struggled over the last, you know, however many years it is, but there's now does seem to be substance coming in behind it, but with the way their under 20s are performing, and they have to be given credit for that, because, you know, when you get up to the Six Nations, these games, they're won on small margins a lot of the time. You play some of the best teams in the world, so it is difficult for Italy, who are, you know, in around that 10th, 12th, you know, placed ranked team in the world. So it is always going to be difficult. So I think if they can push these next crop of under 20 players through, you know, they can start to hopefully again challenge and get close to teams within the next couple of seasons and really see that improvement. I think for me, yeah, as well, it's a really difficult one because you're always trying to keep growing the game to that sort of global audience and bringing it into a global season as well. But it just doesn't feel like the right move, probably certainly at this moment in time, bringing somebody like South Africa in. And, you know, there's all sorts of obviously knock-on effect. You know, if you do that as well, where does that leave New Zealand? Where does that leave, you know, Australia in terms of the Rugby Championship stuff as well?
And England-Wales is always a big one. So have Wales got it in them to beat England at Twickenham after beating Scotland, Johnny?
No. I don't know. I think with two key men, so England looked a little bit toothless. I think if you bring back Manu Tuilagi and Courtney Laws, it starts to look a little bit different. And where they were a little bit tentative or not quite sure, or where they looked like they were hardwired or overcoached into kicking ball away against Scotland time after time again, I think if you are taking gain line, there are clearer pictures, there are overlaps that form, and I think they've got enough in them between the way they're coached, between the personnel they've got, and between that edge physically that's brought back with Manu and Courtney, that they should definitely have enough to do Wales at Twickers. So I don't see Wales going there this year and winning. Faletau back's a big boost for Wales as well, another X-factor player, somebody coming back in and bolstering that back row with all the injuries they've had. But I just see England at home being too strong for Wales. I
probably agree with Beats on that one. I think England back at Twickenham as well. The first couple of games being away from home, I think it's massive for them. And I think, you know, I'm the same, but against Scotland, they kind of just kept kicking us the ball. For me, it was just incredible. But, you know, it was really, it was just bizarre because England have got some excellent players, you know, excellent running players as well. And now you got, Marcus Smith is in there as well. He can really put boys in the positions. He's a player in the similar mold to somebody like Finn. So, I see, England probably getting back on stride and winning that. And, Wales, obviously, they're always going to be up for it, and they showed that against Scotland, really sort of digging in. They've done really well to dig out a fairly good performance after struggling week one. But I think going away to Twickenham is going to be a big ask, and I'm not sure the Welsh attack is up to causing England's defence enough problems to get them over the line. So I think England are going to win that one.
Well, we've chatted a bit about the games, so let's get your predictions in for the Guinness Pint Predictor from Match Pint now. If you haven't had a go yet, it definitely isn't too late to join in, and there's a chance to win a pint of Guinness with every game as well as weekly prizes. All you have to do is pick the winner of each game, how many they'll win by, and don't forget to enter our league with the code Rugby once you've downloaded the Match Pint app as well. You're going to be doing Benji's predictions, Greg, and when I say no,
you do
pressure,
a better job.
I genuinely mean it. No pressure at all. Apparently, did you hear this, Johnny? Apparently, a little birdie told me he picked Italy to beat England by 35 in round 2. Yeah. I don't know whether that was a mistake or not, but
I'm not quite sure he's got his head around the technology and the app yet, but it's actually very simple to use. So don't be dissuaded by Benji's incompetence and stupidity. It's actually very straightforward. But yes, I did see that he chose Italy by 35. And I didn't have the heart to tell him because I thought it was hilarious.
That takes the pressure off me a bit this week.
Genuinely no pressure. We will start with you, Greg. Ireland, Italy, what's going to happen?
Oh, yeah, Ireland are going to win fairly well. England put 33 in them. I'm going to say it's going to be running around that same margin, probably. Ireland, 42 to 10-ish, something like that.
I'm going bigger. I'm going to go Ireland by 40. I just think in Dublin, away from home, they're just too. Even it doesn't matter if Carberry starts at 10. I'd be really interested to see him start another game after his first Six Nations start last week against France. So I kind of hope for generate some depth. They leave Sexton out again, or they stick him on the bench. They start Carberry, but there'll be some other people come in. Maybe potentially Henderson might come in to second row. But I just think with the strength and depth and the way they're playing and the speed with which they are playing, Italy've got no chance. I'm going to go Ireland by 40.
England, Wales, Johnny?
I don't want to say comfortable, but I think this is maybe the game where England click into gear. It's their first real test, like after slipping up really at Murrayfield first round. Italy away was easy at a canter. I think it'll be more of a grind, but I think they've got enough to dispatch Wales. I'm going to go England by 13.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly solid prediction. To be fair, I think, as I mentioned before, England back at Twickenham, Tuolangi back involved, Laws seems to be back in the mix. The two players are going to make them a big difference as well. Wales probably still pretty badly affected by injury across the board. So I'm going to go, England by about 24-12, something like that. So,
I thought you were saying England by 24. I was like, holy.
No. So roughly the same winning margin.
And then the big one. I don't know if it's heart versus head or not, but Greg, Scotland, France.
Yeah, well, since it's Benji's thing, I can say whatever I like. Predictions. I'm going with the boys. I think they can do it. France are excellent. Scotland do really need to play well for 80 minutes and really, really well at that, but they can't do that. They've beaten them the last couple of times. I'm going Scotland by 6 points.
Pressure's on, Johnny.
My head says France by about 9 or 10. I just think the firepower, the way they're playing, I don't know. I just think they've been too good to watch. And if this was going to be their time, it would be it, which is unfortunate for Scotland. They would have to go to Edinburgh and win if they were going to win this championship. My heart says Scotland have beaten them the last 2 times they've played. They're at Murrayfield. All the other big sides have won all their home games, and nobody's fallen at home as yet. So I would say Scotland by 2.
Your heart says one thing. Your head says another.
2 very different things.
What does your match plan predictor say?
My match bank predictor says I'm going to wait and see the team sheet come out on Thursday and make a decision.
Come on.
But, mate, it could go either way. I'm going to go France by 4.
Right, let's just touch on the top 14 briefly before we go as well. And Johnny, every week at the moment, I ask you about Toulouse. This is officially now their worst run in the top 14, 6 defeats in a row.
Yep.
They lost to Pau. Pau were down to 14 after 33 minutes, down to 13 for the last half an hour. They've got Bordeaux at home, Toulouse next, I think. Then they've got Stade away, Montpellier at home. Tough run of fixtures.
Yep.
Should we worry yet?
It's more the manner. It's the fact they're playing against 13 men and Pau are down by 2 in a backline. So they haven't taken anyone off their scrum to defend. And Toulouse are trying to maul them. They're trying to scrum them. You like just basic decision make, like simple things. They're 2 down in a backline, so try and stretch them, and they didn't do it. Pau actually, to be fair to them, were fantastic to watch for the first 60 minutes of that game. They were exceptional. They're now becoming really well organised with a team that don't have many stars, a new head coach who's come from the under-20 setup. And they absolutely blew them off the pitch for 50 minutes. And it was only the red cards that allowed Toulouse back into the game at all. But even with a 2-man advantage, they still couldn't produce anything decent. So Toulouse, it's worrying. I think once they get everyone back from the French side, they'll be fine. But mentally, I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're saying before games, at half times, or problem solving on field. They just seem rudderless. So it's really weird to watch. And you talked about that run of games. They're going to go to Bordeaux. They've got Bordeaux at home, but Bordeaux have just lost to Racing. So they'll send the big dogs to Toulouse because they know they're vulnerable. Away to Stade, who absolutely blitzed Biarritz at the weekend, and Montpellier, who are currently second. So they've got a really, really tough stretch of games. The next 3 are going to be very hard to get through without their international. So I think if they can get through that and take potentially 1 win out of those 3 games, they'll be doing well based on how they're currently playing, which is bizarre to say for Toulouse, but they're in a bit of a pickle. So worrying, but I think even if they get through these games with 1 win, once they get their internationals back, they should be firing. But just really bizarre to watch. Really, really strange.
You know what it's like, Greg, when the Six Nations is on. That Toulouse side is decimated, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the guys that go away, they're obviously, big players and probably big characters within their team as well. And as soon as they pick up a 1 defeat, 2 defeats, and these guys are not there to turn to, that's when it becomes difficult. And as Beach sort of touched on, it's probably more that decision making, or you're on the field, in the moment. And in the top 14, it's a slog. And if you just fall on the right side, teams can sense that, and they really go for you and make it really difficult. So they're going to have to, try and dig themselves out of that in the next, 2 or 3 games while the big dogs are still away on international duty. They've still got good players back there, but it's just that confidence thing.
And what about the red cards in that game, Johnny? You couldn't get 2 clearer reds, could you?
No, and the second one was horrible. The first one by Manu on Alban Placine, which is just doesn't look like a proper punch, but almost like a swinging arm to he's having his jersey pulled, he's off the ball, just get rid of me. I thought that was a little bit soft for red. I thought that could have been a yellow, but the second one was absolutely brutal. I'm not sure if you've seen it on social media, Greg, but Vatabua, who again is a superb centre, like great to watch every weekend for Pau. He's been sensational for them, but flies out the line, spot blitzes Choco Barres, the Argentinian centre, nowhere near the ball. Again, shoulder to head to head. I'm not sure what it is, but I mean, KO'd before he even hits the deck. Just absolutely horrible to watch. So missed time, messy, and one of the most clean-cut red cards you could see with the current laws and guideline, and brutal to watch. So, I mean, the good news was that Choco Barres was out of hospital on the Monday. That was the one thing, because you're just so worried. I mean, the force that Vatabua comes out the line and strikes him, you're just hoping and touching wood that he's okay, but he's now out of hospital, came out on Monday morning, back to the club, back to recover, and you just hope that he doesn't have serious repercussions, because that was a brutal hit. It was absolutely horrible.
What was he thinking there? I mean, he never got the ball, Choco Barres. He never, did he just guess?
Yeah. Mate, I don't know. He's gone.
I don't think he was thinking.
That's it. Maybe he's not, but it's a complete mistime. So he's trying to affect the defensive line. He's trying to spot blitz. He's trying to slow things down, but he's not watching the ball at all. And again, you're taught to always be scanning between the man that you're defending against and the ball, keeping a picture. You can go for an intercept or you can go for the ball when you blitz like that. And he just has not timed it or watched the ball at all. Choco Barras hasn't got anywhere near the ball, and he's nearly decapitated him. So brutal to watch, horrible miss time and a horrible piece of defensive play by actually a really fantastic rugby player. So fingers crossed Choco Barras gets back fit quickly. He doesn't have too many long-term repercussions, and that Vatabua doesn't do it again, because it was messy.
And your old team, Greg, Clermont, they came back. They got a bonus point against La Rochelle, but are you keeping up with them? What do you make of them generally this season, Johnny Gibbs?
Yeah, I keep up and and have a look in, and I think they obviously seem to be struggling a little bit. Something just seems to be not quite clicking in place. I think probably around that 9-10 axis. I think I don't know if that's been announced or anything.
Get him back is what he's saying. They're just struggling at 9 and 10. Get me back.
But I think because I don't know if that's been announced, but there's rumours. Morgan's moving on. To somewhere, I'm not too sure where, potentially up to Paris. Cami Lopez is obviously, he's going down to Bayonne, I think. Beach or Bennett?
Yep.
Bayonne.
Yep, Bayonne.
He's heading there, so I think they don't seem to have been playing too much, and that's been a sort of fulcrum of the team there for a long time, and really settled, and sort of everybody sort of knew where they stood. And I think probably after Frank leaving as well, all the sort of players understood how he worked day in, day out, and they're probably just getting used to Jono as well. But by all accounts, John is an excellent coach. Sadly, I just missed him from my time in Clermont, but I'm sure he'll get them going and get them to the end of the season. But for whatever reason at this moment in time, they seem to be not clicking 100%. And as we touched on before, like to lose if you load confidence. Teams sense that, they go for you, and there's no hiding places in the top 14.
Well, we mentioned Racing earlier on, Johnny. They had their bad run before Christmas, and they're flying now. 5 wins in a row, winning away at Bordeaux.
They are as well, but I think it was how they were losing. So again, their scrum was on roller skates. They've obviously signed a certain tight head from South Africa who's shoring things up for them. Finn was back again in the fallow week. Once you get all these players back, again, the top end of the table now, the teams are so good and they're all traveling. So when Greig and I played, away games were they weren't really considered serious games. Whereas now they see the importance of these points and how precious they are. If you can travel and you can pick up points on the road, you're absolutely flying. And Bordeaux, to be fair, they've been wonderful to watch all year. And they are a very, very hard to beat team. And so for Racing to go there and pick up that result, that's a big one. That's a huge one for them. And you could see how delighted they were after in the change rooms and the celebrations. But again, you just look back at the table. Bordeaux still top. Montpellier picking up a draw at the weekend away to Brive. They're still second. But after you get past fourth, it's just amazing the teams that are out of it. So like La Rochelle currently 8th, who were first, second last season. You've got Clermont down in 10th and Toulon 12th. It just shows how competitive it's become. And again, the movement towards GIF, encouraging all these young kids to be performing week in, week out amongst these senior heads. It's become a tough league. Overnight, it's always been tough, but even for big teams with big budgets, it's becoming tougher and tougher. So again, we had Stade Francais, a disaster start. They smashed Biarritz the weekend. They're up to 7th. They're doing exactly what they did last year. So it's constant movement, never quite settled, and anybody on their day can beat any other team. So it's exciting to watch. And the top 14, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in there. Even as a big team now, I'm glad to be retired because the pressure those boys at Toulon must be under. You see Etzebeth announcing he's leaving, he's heading back to South Africa, going to the Sharks. And you don't blame them. It does not look like a happy place or a settled place to be, and they're not performing. So tough old gig this year, the top 14. And you could see potentially one of the big teams going down and potentially 2 or 3 teams with massive budget not even making the top 6 this year.
Etzebeth off and picking a fight with Bakis Bota as well. That's one we'd all avoid, I think.
Pay-per-view, get it in.
Right, it's about time we did our meter moment of the week, isn't it? So do you want to take it away, Johnny?
Yep, meter moment of the week this week. The best bit of rugby action from the top 14 because there was no Six Nations. And strangely, even though they got smashed with 2 of the worst red cards you'll see all season, the performance by Poe, I thought was exceptional. So 2 bits to pick out. Picaronis, the former under-20s coach, who I think is doing a very good job there, but an individual performance, a man that I thought that stood out. He's on loan from Racing and working with his former coach in the 20s is Jordan Joseph. And he's had massive amounts of not pressure, but expectation placed on him as the next big thing in French rugby and never quite kicked on at Racing. That's why he's on loan. But he was absolutely phenomenal, the way he carried the ball, the way he was contesting, the way he was tackling, just absolute all-action performance. So my meter moment of the weekend this week goes to Jordan Joseph, who finally looks like he's getting somewhere and becoming the player we all want him to be.
And he might not make the 23, but called up to the front squad this week as well.
Yep, has been rewarded. And he's a unit as well. You think back traditionally, the French eights that we've played against, Louis Picamol, I mean, he is an absolute unit. So I think before long, he'll be in that squad and he'll be capped. If he'll be in and about for 2023 for the World Cup, I don't know, but certainly for the future, he's going to be in around the top 14 for a few years to come, and he will pick up a few caps. He's a talented boy and a physical athlete. So one to watch for the future, and he was my meter moment of the weekend, his performance for Pole.
That was Johnny's meter moment of the week. And Meter is the world's #1 wireless meat thermometer, recently making over 11 million cooks better with their game-changing app and completely wireless Bluetooth meat probe. You can use it on a barbecue, in the oven, or in a pan, and you can get your hands on one at meter.com and get 10% off any full price item with the code FrenchPod10 at checkout as well. Plus, from the 11th of February to the 11th of March, you can be in with a chance of winning a trip to Marcus Borden's UK barbecue school in the heart of the Devon countryside with every purchase of an ultimate bundle. Just find the golden ticket.
I'm Charlie, and this is my chocolate factory.
And enjoy a day in the smoky, meaty paradise of Countrywood Smoke HQ. For more details and to be in with a chance to win, just visit meter.com and look for the ultimate bundle. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Greg. And a big thanks to all you guys for listening as well. Make sure you hit subscribe. Leave us a nice review if you can as well. Check us out on Rugby Pass as well as on YouTube. And we'll be back with another episode next week. Au revoir, guys.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.